Welcome to Botanical Trails Through the Juniper Forest. I'm your host, Brian Heater. Each week, I'll have a different guest join me to explore a pair of interesting gins. We'll chat a little bit about the gin and the distilleries, throw in a bit of trivia, hopefully laugh a bit, and then we'll go off the beaten path. Although I say that this is a podcast about gin, really this is just an excuse for me to spend time with my friends. But that'll just be our secret. Okay, let's start exploring. My guest today is Adam Jester. Adam, thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Awesome. Well, you haven't been able to hear it yet because it'll actually come out tomorrow, the day after we're recording this, but your brother was on the episode before, and at the end of that episode I mentioned, yeah, Adam's going to be coming up, but I thought it was going to be a little bit further out. So we're super happy to have you. This is also slightly funny because you and Drew are my cousin-in-laws, and you two are the start of what is going to be a run for a little bit of cousin-in-laws or cousins.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Nice.
So
Nice.
the booking team for Botanical Trails is working on getting some of those folks lined up, and we're starting to get some other people on the schedule, so we're looking forward to it.
That'd be great.
So we have two gins that have basically nothing in common today. So let me explain how this episode came about. At the end of last season, when Brian Place came on for his second stint, he brought me one of today's gins. In fact, it's going to be the first one that we try. It is the first gin that we've tried from Brazil on the show. So I was trying to think of what could I match that up with, and I couldn't think of exactly anything. And then there's this other gin. I've tried a couple of versions of it, and it's actually out of New Zealand. And that is going to be the second gin that we try today. So I guess if we have a theme,
fun.
It is a couple of gins from faraway places, let's say. So this is also the most elaborate gin and tonic I've made. Mm-hmm. It's a little jazzy, but give it a try, and then I'll say what the gin is, and I'll talk about how I made this. But cheers.
Thanks.
That turned out okay.
Whoa. It's delicious.
Oh, I'm glad you like it. All right.
That's very good, actually.
So this gin,
I like that,
is called McQueen and the Violet Fog. And I'll tell you a little bit about it in a second. The gin and tonic I made is I just took a recipe off of their website. And it's their gin. It's a Mediterranean fever tree tonic. Mm-hmm. And then I didn't do a lime wedge. I did a squirt of lime. Mm-hmm. But then some little strawberry sliced up and rosemary to garnish.
Wow.
I only did this because I love you. I never make super fancy gin and tonics like this. Usually it's just like a lime or a lemon and we're good to go. But,
Well, as you know, I have not a huge history with gins.
Yeah.
So you're going all out, and I really appreciate that.
Well,
yeah,
you bet. So, all right. Two interesting facts about this gin that I discovered. So one is that it comes from Brazil. It's distilled in the hills of Jundiaí, Brazil. I completely probably pronounced that wrong. It's Jundiai. I completely forgot to try to look up on the internet how to pronounce that. So there are 21 botanicals that go into this gin. A couple that stood out to me are lemongrass, pomelo peel, orris root, and jasmine flower. So it's described as a gin with a tropical twist. It's a bit citrus forward, and it's won a number of different awards. So now the other interesting thing that I discovered is this is what is considered a celebrity gin. So there are celebrities who are kind of getting into the spirit business. So Ryan Reynolds has aviation gin.
Yes, he does.
If you go into like a larger liquor store, like a Total Wine or a Mega Bev, you may see Def Leppard gin, AC/DC gin. There's a number of... This gin is in collaboration with Wiz Khalifa. So I...
Shout out Wiz.
Don't know much about him other than I believe he's originally from Pennsylvania. So that's what I know. So it's not great. So
that's more than I know. I've heard the name, I guess, but boy, he sure can make a good gin, I guess.
Now, one other interesting fact: the gin itself, the McQueen and the Violet Fog, the gin was inspired by a poem of the same name, the name of the gin, and it ends up being the final two stanzas of that poem are actually on the back of the bottle. So. Now, I was not able to find out much about the distillery, and I believe that the reason is that they are part of Sovereign Brands. And what Sovereign Brands is, it's like a family wine and spirits company, and they end up partnering with different high-quality, family-owned wineries and distilleries around the world. My guess is they found this distillery in Brazil, and they work with them. That company probably does like contract manufacturing for them, basically to make this gin. So that's where it comes from. Nice. They also have a ultraviolet edition, and it adds hibiscus, flower, and berry flavors. And I've actually had that version, and it's really good. And I would say if you get your hands on that, probably give it a try with elderflower tonic. That would be really tasty. So,
I bet.
Anyway,
that is a great synopsis of this wonderful gin.
The whole point of this.
I really like it's. Like I said, I've not enjoyed a lot of different gins, but I would usually think of very pine needly, and people probably talk about that, and you're probably like, well, what kind of gins did you have before? But this doesn't. This is more of the citrusy front that you spoke of, right?
Yeah, it's probably just with it having a lot of those different botanicals in it.
Yeah. I
would have to look on the bottle. I don't know if it's exactly made in like the London Dry style, but yes, those tend to be much more juniper forward.
Yeah.
So.
It's very good, though.
What will be interesting, though, is when we try it without this tonic and the fruit garnishes and everything to see how it is straight with all of those. Yeah. I think that'll be kind of interesting. So
for sure.
Okay. So one thing to kind of warm you up for our conversation. You're a huge fan of Disney.
Huge.
Have you ever watched Stand By Me, the movie?
Long time ago.
Okay. Jim and I
can't even remember it.
Okay, Jim and I were talking about this recently, so I'll see if this rings a bell for you. At one point in the movie, they're all kind of sitting around a campfire, and they joke about when you're 11 and 12, you have conversations about what's important to you at the time. So they're young enough that girls aren't really there yet, and they're just talking about stuff. So they start talking about, well, Pluto's definitely a dog, but what's Goofy? And so they have this conversation.
Yeah.
So you being a Disney guy, is your opinion, is Goofy a dog or something different?
Let me see.
No, don't look it up. I'm asking you. We don't care what Google says.
Can't they both be?
I'm just asking what your opinion is.
I think it is.
You think he's a dog?
I do.
Even though he wears clothes and drives a car.
Yeah. I mean,
but Pluto's like on a leash.
I like how you drew in the Disney piece. I was actually wondering when that was going to come out. But yeah, you're right. Pluto's on the leash. I think is obviously much more plays the pet role well, right? He's there for Mickey and Minnie.
I mean, he's totally just like a dog.
Yeah, he's totally like a dog. He's going to be there to greet you at the door. But Goofy, I mean, that's a whole new character right there.
But isn't Goofy's girlfriend like a cow? Like Clarabelle or something?
I think so. Yeah, that is kind of weird. I don't know. I don't know where this is. I don't know where that comes from.
I think they're just making movie? What'd you say?
You ever see the Goofy movie? It came out in the 90s, maybe?
Oh, no.
Mid-90s?
I definitely did not see that.
I think they're coming out with another one. They're all about remakes now.
Goofy Part 2?
Yeah. Goofy becomes goofier.
Electric Goofy Lou?
I don't know, maybe, but yeah, they were just out at D23, which is the annual.
What is D23?
D23 is Disney's annual. I don't want to call it a conference, but it's kind of like that. It's like an annual thing. It takes place out in Southern California, though, and in Anaheim, and they kind of announce all of their future things, like all the new things coming out for the most part. Whether it's movies, things to the parks, and they had the guys come out who voice Goofy, and it was really funny to hear him talking on stage in the Goofy voice. But they're talking about how they're coming out with a new movie for it,
Between your trips and cruises on a yearly basis to Disney, are you spending plus or minus $1 million? Also, I want to encourage you to continue to do it because I do own a little bit of stock in them. So,
I am helping your stock greatly. We bought into Disney Vacation Club. Shout out to DVC. We spend a good amount on it.
That's good, but you guys love it.
We love it. We plan for it.
Have you gone to that Star Wars park?
Yes.
Is it still open?
So, if you're talking about the Star Wars Hotel, the Galactic Star Cruiser, whatever it's called, that was the definition of a flop. Like, they'll probably make a business book about why you shouldn't do what they did. Let's create this extremely exclusive place in which you must spend $4,000 for 2 nights or whatever. And it just, no one went, and it's already closing. They are already shut.
So they're not trying to salvage like any portions of it?
They never even tried salvaging it, dropping the price, nothing. It's gone. But Star Wars Land was an addition that they put in at Hollywood Studios, which is one of the 4 parks down there in Disney World. And we have been there many times. There's a couple of great rides there and stuff. But, I mean, we try to go about once or twice a year. Probably, you know, we would try to do like a cruise once a year and the park once a year. Sometimes it's a little less than that. Sometimes it might be a little more, but something like that. So, but we do love it. And I like going just Beth and myself, just my wife and me, because the kids are great to bring too, being 14 and 10 though now. Rachel, 10-year-old, she likes it a bit more. Jonah's happy. He doesn't want to deal with all the traveling and all that, you know? But, you know, when we get there, you truly, you can just, there's a million different things you can do. No matter how many times you've been there, there's something new. There's always a great experience. It's always great customer service. Yes, it's expensive, but at least you get what you're paying for.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel that way. And you go there and you're going to spend all this money and time and be in the heat and be miserable anyway. At least you might as well, like, when you're done, go, yeah, that was worth it. That was awesome. We had never been on a cruise before until 2016. We always thought we were going to get, like, sick or whatever, and it was going to be, you're out in the middle of this ocean. And then we decided to just take a risk and go for it for our anniversary and loved it. We took a Disney cruise, just the 2 of us, chilling in the adult-only area. It was great. Enjoying a lot of delicious gin. Beth does.
Nice.
And maybe now I will too. But yeah, so there's like some really specific adult-only things I think a lot of people overlook when they think of Disney. They're just thinking of all the kids everywhere and all the chaos and all of that. But there's tons of places you can carve out your own special things. And like I said, they're always changing and investing in stuff. You don't get that a lot of places where you can go and get a different experience each time. So that's kind of what we really enjoy about it. And yeah.
So I've only been to one property. It's the one in California, so that's Disneyland, correct? Mm-hmm. So I was probably
the
there
original
when I was like, I don't know, somewhere between 8 and 10.
Yep.
Ended up out in LA because my Uncle Dan was in the Air Force, and
oh, really?
Like due to him, yeah, I've gotten to go to like I've gotten to see Tampa, Florida. I've gotten to see Denver. I've gotten to see LA, and then Anchorage, Alaska. Like getting to visit him.
I guess I didn't know you'd been to Anchorage.
So, oh yeah.
Was that when you were young though?
No. Anchorage was when I was 30.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, or gonna turn 30. I was 29, going to turn 30. So yeah, that was a cool trip. But 2 things stood out to me about that trip out to Disney. So one, we stayed at like some sort of like motel, like near the park, where,
right near,
like back in the day, where you could like
directly in.
You know, you open the door and your balcony, but you're looking out like into the parking lot or whatever. And so I was out there with, it was me, my sister Lori, my Aunt Dee took us, and my Aunt Ann went as well, and Ann like had her own room, but we're there, and unbeknownst to us, they shot fireworks off like I think every night. Well, this is like 1980, and like the Cold War is still like hanging over like people. Well, they shoot the fireworks unbeknownst to us. Anne thinks World War III started. Like, she came flying out of her room. She thought the Russians launched an attack on us.
Hiding underneath.
So I remember that sticking out. And then one other, and then like it had to have been probably Saturday night when we were out there. Dan came and spent the night with us at the hotel room, and we stayed up and watched Saturday Night Live, and it was the first time I'd ever seen Mr. Bill. Have you ever seen Mr. Bill on Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It was him
SNL.
he was in jail, and it was the visit to, oh man, it is just...
Probably find it on YouTube.
Oh, you totally can. It just, oh man.
Don't you love how you
so
bring
funny.
back memories of a specific trip or a time, and you have those little nuggets that you remember?
Yeah, but I can remember watching that. But to answer your other question, yes, Anchorage was really amazing. I mean, Alaska is the largest state landmass, and at least when I was there, the population of the state was like the greater West Michigan area.
Yeah.
It was like 500,000 about.
Oh, yeah.
In that whole state.
Yeah.
Half of the population, 250, are in Anchorage.
In Anchorage, yeah.
And they also have like no zoning laws there, or at least they didn't back then.
Oh.
So you drive along, and it's like a house, a garage, a tool shed, a business, and it was just like there's no rhyme or reason to how the buildings went up. It was really interesting. So
I'd love to see it.
But it was just like untamed wilderness is what it reminded me of. It was amazing. And in fact,
so cool,
my uncle's a pilot. He wasn't a pilot in the Air Force, but he would fly little planes, and we ended up going out to this little place called Talkeetna, and you could only get there via plane or a riverboat. And so we ended up flying. We went through like Denali.
Oh, yeah.
And it was probably like a 45-minute flight. And I remember him telling us, he's like, hey, we're going to get up there. And we were going to this little restaurant, and there's only like 10 things on the menu. Oh, yeah. And he's like, but we might get up there, and they're going to be like, oh, hey, items 2, 3, and 5 are not available because like the boat didn't make it with the shipment. And I went up there, and I ended up trying a musk ox burger, I remember. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to try stuff like that when you go to a unique place.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just so fun. And gosh, he must have been. So he flew you, and
it was me.
Were you probably in a 4-seater or 6-seater?
Exactly. There was 4 of us. There was 4 of us. We went out to dinner.
Yeah. Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was. That was a really cool experience. And then we went fishing where the Russian and Denali rivers met up.
Nice.
Yeah, and I remember him asking me, he's like, "Can you run fast?" And I was like. Did I tell you the story? Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah. He was like, "Can you run fast?"
I know where it's going.
Yeah, and I was like, "I'm not that fast of a runner."
Goes,
He's like, "Good. I just need to outrun you, not the bear." So yeah.
Yeah. Well, pilot, that speaks my language too.
Yeah. So are you still flying? That's what he does now. He's
where is he?
He's now in New Hampshire.
Oh, okay.
So, yep.
That's right. I think I remember you telling me that a while back. I haven't flown in a couple of years actually. So what? I got my private pilot certificate. Yeah. I didn't realize it'd been that long. I know. The good thing is you never lose it. You run out of currency where you need to get re-up, and you sit in, and you basically have to go out a couple times with a certified flight instructor and get current, but just to show that you're proficient so that you're safe. That would probably take a couple of hours with an instructor, but you don't really lose it. Once you've got your first certificate, which is your private pilot certificate, then you can... if 10 years from now I want to pick it back up and go on to the next rating, I could do that.
Oh, yeah. No, I know a lot of...
It's really cool.
Yeah, there's you. There's my Uncle Dan. There's my cousin, I don't know, once removed. It's my dad's cousin. Okay. Jim Buse is a pilot. My Uncle Don, I think, was a pilot for a short time. Yeah. My buddy Oni. So I know a bunch of people
If it's just fun, and if you love it, you love it. And if you're like, I could never do that, people just never do it. I just feel like you have to have it in your DNA almost to say, I want to get in this little tiny thing.
Or was it something that you wanted to do, but now that you did it, you're kind of like, I'm good?
It started to wear off on me after I got my certificate, and I flew around a few times and enjoyed it. But then you're still limited on how far you can go and weather and aircraft availability, because I was renting from someone. I was renting their aircraft. I don't own one. So once, and then he moved and he took this plane, and yes, you could rent a plane from someone else, but then you got to get, checked out in that type of an airplane. So that's even more time and more money. And it's like, if you had endless cash, okay, then yeah, maybe I'd be flying more, right?
Sure.
We're spending it at Disney instead right now.
Yeah.
But it's like, there are other things I'd like to do with it eventually, maybe someday, but Like I said, the hardest part was not being instrument rated, which is basically allowing you to fly through clouds. You're not going to go out purposefully and fly through horrible weather anyway, just to go up north to go have a burger somewhere. I mean, it's not like you're a big giant commercial airliner. So you're going up when it's usually pretty nice anyway, but it's just nice to know that you're safe if you need to come through clouds to land or whatever. And not having that rating really limits the amount of times you can get up and go. And so you plan, hey, Saturday, let's go. We're going to go wherever. And then you wake up and it's kind of not good. It's kind of good. And you got to make that decision and stick with it. Or it's clear now, but later it's going to be bad and we want to come back. And so a lot of times you end up just scrubbing what you were going to do and you kind of get a little, okay. And then eventually it just sort of wears off and you think, okay, I'm going to put this to the side a little while, put it up on the shelf, and then maybe revisit it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't go away. But it sure was fun. It was like a really awesome hobby and challenge, and you learn a ton, not just about obviously flying in the airplane and everything, but like how to communicate and how to be calm under pressure and be able to do 10 things at once and be very uncomfortable in difficult situations, because the airplane, during your check ride with the FAA and everything, they put you in difficult situations because they want to make sure you know what to do.
Sure.
They don't just say, hey, take me up for a nice little flight. They stall the aircraft up at 3,000 feet. You have to recover. They ask you a million questions. It's really, really difficult, but it's super rewarding. And what's funny is you look back, I was reading John Glenn's book that he wrote, and like he was talking about when he got his private pilot certificate in probably the early 50s, I would say, or 40s, almost the same coursework stuff that I still go through, that the FAA still makes you go through, right? Same types of training has to be done, the same hour requirements. I mean, they may have tweaked the hours a little here and there, but for the most part, it's the same stuff. I mean, my goodness, the plane I was flying in was from 1969. So it's like,
Yeah. But that's literally older than I am.
Good.
Just to let you know how old this was.
And that was not the oldest one there. There were some from the early 60s too. So, but it hasn't changed a ton. Where it has changed is obviously all the tech and all of the, Garmin GPS and all the big, beautiful, looks like iPads and screens and stuff. But they still make you learn all the old-fashioned way too. Because in their opinion, all that stuff is a redundancy. And so if you're up flying and you lose electronics, like you got to be able to still read the normal gauges or use a magnetic compass to know how to get home.
Sure, yeah.
And that's the big thing. So it's like, well, you got to learn all this stuff still, no matter how advanced we get. It's kind of cool.
No, and I think that's a good idea. So
this is delicious.
Well, I'm glad you liked it. All right, we had talked about for trivia. I would go first, so you can go ahead and ask me the question.
Oh, Sipsmith. You ever heard of Sipsmith?
Yep.
Sipsmith. Yep. Sipsmith. Features which bird on its logo?
It's a, I almost said it's a bird, but I'm glad I listened to the question. I want to say it is a swan. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I've had their gin. I've had their London Dry. It's an interesting gin. It took me a while to find, though, a good combination for like a tonic and something, and I ended up going, and if anyone, my 4 listeners, if you ever get Sipsmith, if you can find the aromatic fever tree tonic, which is kind of like their pink tonic, and get an orange slice and mix that, it complements that gin really well. So
good job on Swan. Now, one other question,
well, it helped that I've had that gin, so.
Apologies if this is too, Gin 101, but, when you say London Dry...
Yes.
Is that a...
It's a style of...
Everyone's like, what the heck? He doesn't even know what London Dry is.
It's a style of making gin. You don't have to be in London. It doesn't mean it has to come from
champagne
London.
From that specific region in France.
It just... London Dry is a particular way that a gin is distilled. And if something is going to be London Dry, it has to follow, these certain steps. That's all.
Okay.
So,
cool.
Yeah.
Now I'm learning.
Awesome. All right. Well, we'll go get the next round, and we'll be right back. All right. We are back. We're going to try the little sippers, but while I was getting things ready, we discovered something about one of these shot glasses. Would you like to quickly tell that story?
Yeah, Brian comes in sets down a shot glass that says University of Cambridge University, I should say. And I was like, that is from me. I gave that to your bride 20 some years ago. When did I go there? I went in 2002.
Yeah, it was before I had met you and your brother. So
yeah. I studied abroad at Cambridge in England, actually, for a summer as part of a study abroad program through Michigan State.
Wow.
It started in like maybe late June, early July, and went until mid-August, like a week or so before school started back up in East Lansing. And so when you brought that in, I remember bringing that back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I once tried to study abroad too, but she wanted nothing to do with it. Just kidding.
Well, then just drink some gin and forget about it. This is
the first one that we just tried. So give it a sip.
And meanwhile, I have a Louisiana.
Yeah. So don't shoot it. Just sip it.
Okay.
That was smoother than what I thought it would be.
Smooth.
Yeah. And it does taste a little citrusy to me.
Throat's a little burny.
Well, yeah. I mean, we're drinking it. Yeah. But it's not like...
I mean, in a good way.
It didn't like set your throat on fire, though, right?
No. Very. I feel like it was. What I mean by that is like first it was smooth. It was really smooth, and then it was like, oh yeah, that is alcohol still.
Yeah, that's a smooth little gin right there. So,
I like it.
All right,
very good.
All right, enjoy a peanut or a glass of water to cleanse your palate, and then we will try the second gin.
Delicious peanuts.
Use it real quick, and then I'll talk more about it. But
excuse me.
This is Scapegrace Dry Gin.
Scapegrace,
and I'll explain the name in a second. So give that a little taste. And cheers again for coming on.
Oh yeah, that tastes more like a gin that I've had before. I think.
Yeah, it's certainly
a very familiar. Yep. It's different than the first one, though.
It is. Yeah,
it's quite different.
Well, it's got. Like about...
When you get into that, it's...
a third of the botanicals.
Mm-hmm.
I'll if I remember, well, yeah, maybe not quite. Maybe half. Maybe half of them are botanicals. So. But yeah, a little more juniper forward.
Yeah.
But also, like, really smooth. So.
Yeah.
All right. All right. The cocktail is just one of my normal gin and tonics, and we went with the Mediterranean Fever Tree, a little splash of lime. So give that a try.
A splash of lime in there too.
Oh yeah.
Nice. Oh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That'll do the trick.
I could drink those all day, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not gonna lie, that's beautiful.
So, as I mentioned, this is our first gin from New Zealand. This gin originally came out in 2014. It is a combination of glacial waters from the Southern Alps in New Zealand and 12 botanicals with lemon and orange peel shining through, is what I'd read in a review. So, in 2018, it won Best London Dry Gin at the International Spirit Awards. So that was a big thing for them.
Wow.
The website The Gin Is In describes it as having a soft initial entry, but radiates with warmth towards the finish. It is a clean, clear, and has a balanced classic style gin nose. They actually recommend if you make it garnishing it with a slice of orange. So, but I've had it this way before. I liked it, so I just served it this way again. So,
that's great.
So the Scapegrace comes from Scapegrace Distillery. This distillery started in 2014, and it was actually known as the Rogue Society Gin, which I think is just a great name. It was started by three gentlemen, two of whom are brothers-in-law. But in 2018, as they were expanding, having won the best, London Dry Gin award, they ran into a trademark law issue over in Europe with a U.S. brewery. So my guess is it was like Rogue Dead Guy, right? That's my guess. So in order to stay in the European market, they were forced to have to change their name. So they changed their name to Scapegrace. So I was like, well, what is Scapegrace? And I was doing a little bit of homework, and I found this article published in New Zealand that talked about how the company had to change their name, and a scapegrace is defined as a complete rogue or rascal. So they kind of just like found a different name for a rogue, which I thought was genius. So
very cool.
They have this distillery that is located precisely on the 45th parallel because they feel it is, with the hot summers and cool winters, it is a perfect place for doing distilling. And it is found 80 meters above Lake Dunstan and Mount Pisa. So, at the distillery itself, they make 4 types of gin, along with a vodka and a single malt whiskey. The 4 gins they have are their classic, which is what we're having right now, a gold, which I've never tried, a black premium, which I have tried, and Blood Moon, which is relatively new, but I have not seen yet. The black one is sort of interesting because I actually got a bottle of this from my sister for her birthday just last month, and we tried like little sippers of it, and when you poured it out, it was like an inky black color, sort of. Yeah, it wasn't clear. There was like it was almost like an octopus like shot something into there. But I don't remember exactly what caused it. It's something that they add to it, but that's what gives it the name. So yeah, so that is our gin from New Zealand.
Wonderful.
So,
and there's a road trip there included in this too, you said. After this, we go there and get to visit, or is that part of my deal?
We get to go to Barnes & Noble and look at an atlas and then find the distillery on a map. That's the budget that we have right now.
45th parallel of the southern hemisphere, probably. And here in Michigan, we've got the 45th parallel just north of us, not too far. Which is
I think I crossed it on my bike doing the ride around Torch Lake. Yeah.
Isn't that interesting? So, what's really good. Really good.
Have you been to New Zealand before?
No.
Me neither.
No, I've never. I mean, the closest I've been to that part of the world is Thailand one time. And that was for work for 4 nights, and that was it.
I got pretty close. I was in Australia once.
I didn't know that either. Gosh.
I went with, my...
oh, wow.
My sister Lori took my mom.
Oh, man.
And they went on a 2-week trip. And I had mentioned this actually briefly with in your brother's episode. I won't go on. But,
yeah.
So I went for just the week that they were in Sydney, which was really cool. But then they went to this other spot because they wanted to go, like, snorkel and see the Great Reef. And I'm like, something up there will kill me. So I just went home after a week. But it was a cool place. So
very far, but I'm sure it is beautiful.
Yeah, it was I'm pretty sure it was the longest flight I've ever had.
Oh yeah, it's a long ways away. I would love to go someday though. Got to find a way for work to pay the way though. That'd be great.
Or see if there's a Disney cruise there or something.
I think there may actually be coming up with the new ship. They're coming out with their 6th, I guess, the Treasure. And I think that one's going to be sailing more in that part of the world.
Oh, okay.
But not for sure yet.
Real quick, before I forget, the episode before your brother was on, the episode with Greg, we actually had a trivia question that came up, and it was something talking about the goddess of gin, which neither of us knew anything about. So I told him I would research what it was. So real quick, Daffy is the goddess of gin, and she was first written about in the 1700s. And Daffy is the essence of great gin, a lover of life who has transcended the decades. But here's the deal. I couldn't find like any articles that from the 1700s that really mentioned her. But also, which I found interesting, Daffy is what gin was also called as kind of like a slang name for it in Britain in the 1800s. And allegedly in some of the writings of Charles Dickens, he writes about Daffy. So, but the thing that had come up is that there's a gin called Daffy Gin, and that's what the question was about. And on the bottle, Daffy was painted by the artist Robert McGuinness, and the lady on the bottle is actually based on paintings and sketches that he had done of the distiller's wife there. So that's how they kind of came up with that. So I still don't know exactly the origin of Daffy, the goddess of gin, but that is what I was able to find out. So hopefully that'll answer Greg's question. So
good follow-up.
Yeah. So your youngest, Rachel, is gymnastics, and is that taking you like all over the Midwest, or is everything primarily based in Michigan, or how's that going?
So So she is in a level called Excel, which is sort of like more. It's not as intense and as far-reaching as what U.S. Gymnastics calls developmental program.
Okay.
Or DP. That's really where it's like they practice 16 to 20 hours a week, and they do travel all throughout the Midwest, if not the country, for certain national competitions.
Wow.
We were like, okay, that's kind of a lot for a 9-year-old who also wants to do choir and all these other things. And so, and cheerleading and stuff. So this one works great. We've gone all throughout the state of Michigan and gone to a whole bunch of competitions. It's her first year. She's done incredible. She qualified for the state meet during her first competition by having a high enough score. You need to have a combined score of 36 or above to qualify for states, which would be basically a 9 or above on each.
Was that the one she did downtown? Like Drew went to part of it?
So that was the first one of the year. That's a big one downtown, and that was her first one of the year, and she already qualified for the state tournament or the state meet by having a 36 there. And then she had other ones in like Battle Creek, Lansing, a couple in Flint. She's got one coming up in Grand Rapids again. So it's been a fun year. It's been a really fun year.
Well, that's awesome.
She's at practice right now, actually. So she goes a couple times a week. So right now her practices are, she does 5 hours of practice a week? Yeah. 2.5 hours Tuesday night, 2.5 on Thursday.
And then how often does she have these like meets or competitions?
Well, that's the funny thing is they practice all year. They get into different levels. There's bronze, silver, gold, and she's silver right now, but she'll probably go up. But like they practice all year round, even though the competitions are mostly late December and then January, February, and March-ish. So like
it's almost sort of more of a winter sport.
Yep.
But they're practicing for it all throughout the year.
Yep. So like she started really in earnest in like June or July of last year. And it was like, so you just practice for the next like 5 months? Your first competition's not till December 28th or something? It was very odd to me, and just used to sports where you like, you know, you're practicing, you have a game on the weekend or whatever. And so that's very different, but it's been great. I mean, she's gotten tons of medals. I mean, she's done really, really well. She just has a natural ability to flip and twirl and be graceful on a 4-inch beam. It's great. And it's great to see her build like awesome relationships with these really nice young ladies that are from all different areas around. They're not just from her school, you know, they're from the cities surrounding. So it's nice to have them all together and like make different relationships with all of them. You know,
where's her club based out of? Is it in Jenison?
It's near Granville. It's kind of like Granville, Wyoming area. And it's a group that's growing a lot. The owner of it has expanded now into the place they're in now, and it's already kind of like, boy, how can we fit another set of bars in here or whatever, because it's getting tight because there's so many people that want it. There's such a demand. It's unbelievable. You wouldn't think it, but there's a lot of people who want to do it.
That's cool.
But yeah, so they do great. I mean, I think at every competition, her silvers won overall first, second, or third at all of them. There may have been one where they came in fourth. But they took first in at least one or two. They took second in a couple. So yeah, she's been going crazy. At the state competition, she took second overall. So like when you go in the states, they classify you by like your level. So bronze, silver, whatever, but then also by like your age. So you're competing against like the people that are in your level, but also your age versus just everyone among your level. So, and they do that at the other meets too, but this one is because it's the full state, there's a lot more people competing. So by her taking second overall, I think there was maybe 25 or so girls that had qualified that were in her group.
Wow.
So taking second overall was awesome.
That's amazing.
Yeah. She loves it.
Okay. Before we move on to trivia and then off the beaten path, one last question. This is new since the last episode, but my sabbatical has come to an end.
Yes, sir.
And you and I are now working together again in the same company. So on a scale of 1 to 10.
Can we name the company or not?
Yeah, we can.
Everyone knows.
So,
I'm just kidding.
Scale of 1 to 10, how happy are you that we can occasionally get coffee again during the week?
Is 10 the highest you can go? 11.
I can't.
It's great. It's awesome, man. I'm so glad you're back. It's fun. You know, because you were gone for
2 years.
2 years.
I forgot.
You're back
everything.
at the big complex. You're back on campus.
Yep. 3 days a week. I'm just working part-time.
Part-time. It's a great place. They've invested a ton, and it is so fun to know, like, you're right around the corner, and we can hang out. We need to sneak away for a lunch hour, too, probably, you know, like the good old days.
Yeah. Once I can get settled in and get the lay of the land again,
get
remember where everything is.
Get them fooled enough to where...
Oh, yeah.
I'm just teasing.
Yeah. No, it is one of the greatest scams in corporate history.
The success of Ryan Heater is the biggest corporate scam.
Yeah, the fact that they let me in every day and they pay me,
I know,
is slightly hilarious.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people feel that way. But yeah, it's certainly fun. I love it, and we get unlimited coffee now, free. So that's great, right?
Yeah,
We have a fancy coffee machine, 2 of them. So we want lattes, Americanos, cappuccinos. They're there. And then, of course, there's the random fruit basket, which is free too. Which, I mean, come on. An apple and orange. Yeah. I want free other things too, but they did reduce prices on things though, which is it's also super good.
Free gym membership now.
Yep, free gym memberships and on site, and they dropped the pricing of all the food in the cafeterias and everything. So that really helps. You know, it helps people stay there too. But yeah, to know you can just go to because there's all the remodeling and stuff going on too, but. Yeah, it's great. Yeah. I'm glad you're back.
Well, thanks.
And you're back. Are you on site Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday?
I am on site Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
So I'll be back to Thursdays in May.
Yeah.
Back when they're forcing you, right?
Yep. But I'm back out supporting the plants, and it's just easier to be out there. So.
Yeah, I bet it is. Yep.
And you can see what used to be my former home office. Yeah, Picasso has taken over on half of it, and I don't have much space here anymore. So.
More work might be able to get done out there.
So, all right. It is your turn.
Yeah.
Trivia. So let me ask you the question. Okay.
As my cheeks are turning a nice rosy pink from the gin settling in.
Okay.
It's delicious.
Here's the question. Distilled gin is produced exclusively by redistilling ethanol of agricultural origin with an initial minimum strength of what percentage?
Oh, Brian, that's...
And hang on, it's a multiple choice, so you don't have to come up with something. Don't worry about it.
Because I was just going to
You can put the calculator away, Adam. I'll tell you, you have a 33.3333% chance. With an initial minimum strength of what percentage? 72%, 84%, or 96%?
I'm going the 70.
Do you want me to reread the question?
I want that first one.
You want me to reread the question, or you're guessing 72%?
I'm guessing 72.
Okay. Please never go into distilling. It is 96%. is what they have to do to get to it.
Hey, I thought, oh well.
No, yeah.
I had no before you were even going to name choices, I don't even want to tell you what I was going to say. Because it was going to be 10. I don't know. I didn't know if it somehow got stronger. I knew it was stronger than 10. I don't know.
Yeah. So, okay. Off the beaten path, we had talked before we started recording, and we decided that I would go first. Okay. So, you know me. I like to try to tie things into an episode sometimes. What I had said in the last episode was I was not going to do another movie because I've started off with three straight movies to start this season.
Can I interrupt you real quick? I'm so sorry. What? Interrupt you?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Remember, so on the one with Drew a while back on April of last year, you said The Prestige was the movie.
Yep.
And what was so funny is you had told me about that movie years ago. And I just rewatched it maybe 2 weeks ago.
And? Still good?
Oh, it's wonderful.
Isn't it so well?
So I was like, it was just so funny that I was listening to your old podcast yesterday or today, and I thought, Prestige, that's right. Yeah. So I was like, I love Christopher Nolan stuff.
Me too.
And
he's just one of my favorites.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but
I
love
you're
movie
fine.
Talk.
If he makes a movie if Wes Anderson makes a movie, if Quentin Tarantino makes a movie, I will just go see that movie, or Scorsese. Like, I don't care. I will go see it because I enjoy like what they do for sure. Mm-hmm. Anyway, originally I was going to try and do like an album or something like that, but I was like, oh, I do have something. So our first gin was a Brazilian gin. One of my favorite foreign films is a Brazilian film. So City of God came out in, I think it came out in the U.S. here in 2003. It originally came out in Brazil in 2002. I probably saw it a couple of years after that because I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it on VHS or no, DVD.
You're not that old, right? No,
I'm
adding it.
I've seen both,
by the way.
But it is a.
I think I may have seen it before.
Actually, when I was doing my research, I was sort of surprised. I thought it was one of the nominees for Best Foreign Film in 2003 for the Oscars, but it was not. But it did get nominated for a couple of other. But it is a movie that is based on a semi autobiographical novel, and basically it is about sort of these drug gangs in the slums of Rio de Janeiro. They're called favelas, if I remember correctly. But this one is the movie is just like really well done. It's sort of told from the perspective of this young man who he's really more of a photographer. He gets into photography and it's but he has friends who are involved in the drug trade down there. But the movie is I've watched it a number of times. It's a well done, really good story. There is another movie that came out a couple of years after called City of Men. I wouldn't really say that is a sequel to it, and that one is not quite as kind of harsh as City of God. City of God is there's a couple of like harsh things in that movie, but it's just a really well told story. And I would have to say it is probably in my top 5 of all time like foreign films.
Wow.
So City of God. And I just realized I forgot to look where you can watch it or stream it, so I will try to do that and mention it real quick in the next episode.
It looks like it is available to rent or stream on Prime Video for $3.79.
I believe, though, you could rent or stream it on Prime. I believe.
Yep. Maybe with some...
I'm just kidding. I was just copying what you told me.
This looks like an incredible movie. Anything that has an over 8.5 IMDb rating, 79 Metascore. I remember seeing this...
You seen the movie?
No, I don't think I've seen the movie. I remember hearing about this. I've seen the different cast that's in here as well, and I think so. The director, or one of the directors, there was 2, but Fernando. I can't remember pronounce his last name, but he's originally from Sao Paulo, Brazil. So I think that's another reason why this was so good, close to home. But it looks like he was also known for directing The Two Popes, if you've ever seen that. And that is actually on Netflix right now, and that's really cool. That's like behind Vatican walls. You got the conservative Pope Benedict and the liberal future Pope Francis. They must find common ground to forge a new path for the Catholic Church.
I think they got nominated for Oscar for Best Picture like 3 or 4 years ago.
It's really great. It's a good show. It's got Anthony Hopkins, Jonathan Pryce in it, so really, really
And that's
cool.
From the director who did City of God?
Yep.
Well, that's interesting. I did not know that. So,
yeah. And that is one you could watch too. So on Netflix, and I did watch that one. It's pretty good.
All right. What is your selection for Off the Beaten Path?
Brian, I tossed around so many ideas in my head. I didn't know how deep we could go. First of all, I actually thought about talking about Disney. I thought about talking about this. I love some of my favorite movies. I love, maybe this is off, right? Because I shouldn't do too many of what I would have done. But I love all like the Damien Chazelle movies. So the La La Lands, Whiplash, First Man, incredible. And Justin Hurwitz does all the music in those movies.
Okay.
And they were roommates at Harvard together. So it's like, what are the chances? Well,
really?
Harvard is just, they met freshman year.
Yeah, but that's crazy.
And they came out, I can't remember the name of their first little, of course, super cheap production movie. They met at Harvard. He's like, I'm awesome at music. I want to be a director. And then they came together and just created like incredible
those
films.
Are good movies.
So, so I thought about going there, but I'm not. I was thinking about, have you ever heard of The Greatest Beer Run Ever?
So I have, it's a movie. I believe they may have turned that into a movie.
They did.
Like on Netflix or HBO or something like that.
It was a full Hollywood release in theaters and everything.
Yep.
So I wanted to talk
So I've heard
about
of the movie. I didn't know it was based. Well, you're holding a book, so I'm assuming.
I'm holding a book, and I brought it in case you wanted to borrow it. I let your father-in-law read it, by the way, because he kind of grew up during the Vietnam era. Well, he did. But the real area I wanted to think about for this Off the Beaten Path was Ken Burns. Everyone knows Ken Burns. Beth was like, everybody knows Ken Burns. Why are you bringing up Ken Burns?
I don't know that everyone knows Ken Burns.
Oh, good. I love documentaries.
Yeah.
I love them. I like a good fiction, too, of course, but I love, like, at the end of a long, like, if I could just sit down at the couch, kids are in bed, I'm relaxing, like, I don't know why, like, I like documentaries. And I can go to bed perfectly fine after watching a documentary about a war. Like, it's fine. I'm not getting too riled up. But he did a documentary along with Lynn Novak. She and him co-produced, directed it and everything. First of all, they had a $30 million budget from PBS. So I'm like, is this the highest budgeted thing PBS has ever done? But it's a 10-episode series called The Vietnam War.
Yeah. Yep.
Have you seen it?
I've seen half of it. Yes.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
And there's 10 episodes, and they're all an hour and a half to 2 hours long.
Yep.
Came out in 2017. And I've watched it through probably like 3 times.
Wow.
And it's like, well, why are you watching all of this? But and that ties to this book too. But so I've watched it, and I was like, gosh, this is an amazing documentary. Of course, they do such amazing work, but it brings back, it starts and it goes in chronological order from the very beginning all the way through defeat, basically leaving in 1975 when at that time our local president Gerald Ford was in office, and the famous picture of the helicopter on top pulling out the last people, and it's very reminiscent of what's happened even like today too. It's like in Afghanistan or whatever.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I just thought it's like, ooh, you're going to talk about a war during this fun gin podcast. But I'm like, there's so many parallels you can get to today. I mean, it went through 5 different presidencies from both political parties. It was easier to muddle through 10 plus the 15 years of this stuff instead of facing up and owning what was really happening. There was lies and all the other stuff that went in behind the scenes, and how French originally occupied Vietnam, and then they leave, and then the Americans come in, and originally Ho Chi Minh wanted to partner with the United States. Like, they wanted independence, and things didn't get to the presidents in the correct way, and it's just so interesting to see how it all unfolds, and how then the country becomes divided eventually, and you get the people that are like, if you're against the war, you're anti-American. And then the people that are protesting against the war are like, no, we're very American. We're trying to say that it's this way. And so I just think it's super well done because they interview throughout. There are men and women that they interview throughout. Of course, primarily men, since 99% of the people that served back then were. But I don't throw out that stat. I don't know if that's the correct number, but it was extremely high, right?
I'm going to guess it's not, since you were going to guess 10% on the alcohol thing. So we'll just say it was a majority.
The two. Majority men. And the stories that they tell are incredible, and it wasn't that long ago, right? I mean, like, ending in 1975. I mean, my brother was born in 79. I was born in 82.
I was born in 70. I was 5 years old.
So it's just a really cool thing to put yourself out there and learn something that you might not know a whole lot about. And what brought me to the book. So I've watched the documentary now, the 10 episodes, and then it came off of Prime Video for free. So then it was like, if you want to buy it, you can buy the whole entire shebang for I think it's $49.99 or something. You can get all 10 of these 2-hour long things about it. So it's really awesome. But the greatest beer run ever, I'm going to talk about this story. Have you heard about the story of exactly what happened here?
I've read like a synopsis of the movie, but
yeah, so it's really cool. My mom actually got me this book because she saw the gentleman on the Today Show or something like that. Zac Efron is in this movie.
Yep.
This is the movie that it came out a couple years ago. It was pretty good reviews. But here's the gist of it was a guy, the north end of Manhattan in a little bar. He's in there. It reminds me of a lot of West Side bars. Like I'm picturing it being like one of our local watering holes here. He goes in. His name is John Donahue, but everyone calls him Chick. So he goes by Chicky. So his name's Chicky, and Chicky's in the bar, and the owner of the bar is in there, and everybody knows everybody, and everyone's drinking beer. And this is 1967. The bar owner, who in the movie is played by Bill Murray, he's like watching the protests happening, in Central Park, and he's like, "Oh, these protesters." The bar owner was very like pro America, right? And it was all those protesters are communists. So he was like, I wish one of us could just go over there and bring a beer to our boys over there, and he names off the 6 names of all the local boys. It's like a local pub.
Yep.
We're all, the local guys, everyone's 18, you all sign up. Some have got pulled into the draft, some offered to go. And so Chicky is like, well, I'll go. What? I'm going to bring the guys a beer. So 2 days later, he gets a huge duffel bag, goes to the bar. They load him up with PBRs. And he literally heads to the port with his union card.
Were they bottles or cans?
Cans.
Okay.
And now he had some history in Vietnam. That's the other thing. Like he did join the Marines, never saw action in Nam, came back, was in the Merchant Marines, and had like visited Nam, but before it got super chaotic in like the mid to late 60s, right? So he's like, I'm going to go. And he's like, I don't know how I'm going to get there when I get there. So he goes to the port, finds that there's a huge vessel shipping, like literally leaving the next day. I'm going to work on the ship. Here's my union card. I need you. They take him on. Do I have a couple minutes or I can keep droning on?
No, you're fine.
Good.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't want to go too deep in it, but so he eventually gets on the ship, destined for Vietnam, and he works on the ship the whole way. So for 2 months, he's working on the ship. It's an ammunitions resupply ship. This is in the fall of 1967. He's got all of his beer with him. He works the whole entire way. Gets to Vietnam. They pull in. They're parking as if it's like a car. Docking this enormous vessel, and he's like unloading, and his first interest is to find number 1 on his list, and there's 6 guys he wants to bring beer to, and the story continues to go on where by the time he gets there, he realizes one of them had just left because he got sick with malaria and got shipped home. So now it's down to 5 guys. The fourth, one of the guys unfortunately died. He was killed in action. So now it's 4. So he's like, I gotta find these 4 guys. Gets off, the first place he gets off, crazy enough, one of the guys is literally working at that terminal. Runs off, there he is. They see each other right away. He's like, I've been here for an hour and I've already got one of the guys. And he couldn't believe it. He's like, Chicky, what are you doing here? And they go crazy. And it's all written in the book. This is all completely true, 100% true. And so he then, hey, I gotta go find this guy, Kevin, or I can't remember his exact name. Okay, he's up in this area, up by the demilitarized zone, the DMZ, and like just south of it. It's very dangerous. Well, I don't care. I'm going to go. So he finds a way onto a helicopter. And the funny thing is he wore like plain clothes the whole time. He wasn't uniformed. So he kept using this story that he was going to meet his stepbrother, which is why they have different last names. I'm meeting my stepbrother, and because my mom died or whatever, and he made this whole story up. And so that's how he got on. And plus, most of the military officers thought maybe he's like high up, or like he's like a spy or something, like an agent, like because he's in plain clothes. Let's just So he would get on these like helicopters and they would go up north, and he met them, and it's just the stories that ensue, the all this other stuff. And I think one of the craziest things was when he does go up there, he meets this other one, and right when he's about ready to head back to Saigon to get on his ship, he goes back and his ship had just left. Goodbye, you weren't here on time, we're leaving. And the very next day was the Tet Offensive. which was like the largest uprising late during the Tet holiday in Vietnam.
68, right?
Yep. January 31st or something like that, right at the end of January. And so he got stuck there for that. And so now he is like, I gotta survive. Like, I really have to survive. And so the story is how he goes through all of that and eventually lives and how they succeed. He gets back home and all the stories that they share and stuff, and all the stuff he went through to get through his time there and to get back. But I just thought it's cool because it's a great book. It's quick to read.
So have you read the book and seen the movie? You've done both?
Yep.
Okay.
And I read the book first, and I really liked it. Because, like I said, I like history, and I like documentaries as well. So it kind of fit in because it's a true story. So, but yeah, it's really a cool thing. So it's called The Greatest Beer Run Ever. Again, John Donahue, and they were very proud to say, and soon to be a motion picture. But it's really neat. Started in a New York bar, ended up in the wars of Vietnam, just to bring cans of PBR.
Crazy.
So he said he brought about 18 cans. Wow. And I was like, wow. And he said every time he threw it to the guys, they were like warm. Like, obviously they weren't cold. They didn't care. They just like guzzled it down. I thought, didn't these GIs just basically have access to nothing but like beer and cigarettes while they were there? But I guess not. Maybe a PBR was
it was probably just a taste of home. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, we're gonna wrap things up real quick. Of all the ones you've seen, what's your favorite Ken Burns documentary?
Oh, that one.
That is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Civil War for me.
So that's a close second. And then he did baseball too, right? I think he did one on baseball.
Baseball, jazz, World War II. Like, I mean,
I think Civil War is incredible.
And we're like scratching the surface. Yeah. I'm not joking. I bet he's got 30 plus documentaries out there.
And a University of Michigan guy. You know that?
No. Like what, for his master's? Because he
I think so.
Because he originally went to Hampshire, where my sister went for a year, Amy.
Master's.
No grades.
Really?
No grades. Your senior year, you just work on a project. Mm-hmm. So you like write a novel, write a play.
That's cool.
He made a movie.
Oh yeah.
It's
just really
a different school. It's not Michigan State. So.
I think he did. I think his first was on the Brooklyn Bridge. Was maybe his very first documentary.
Yeah, his stuff was great.
In like 82 or something. But yeah, I just love it. I highly recommend checking it out. It's a long thing, but if you want to, like I said, it's very unique because you may think we have come a long way and like we don't do those things anymore, but there's a lot of similarities. Thanks, Brian.
Those who do not know history are doomed to repeat it. So, well, I can't thank you enough for coming on.
Sorry, last sip of gin. That was delicious.
I'm glad you liked it.
Thank you for having me on. This was a lot of fun. I hope to be
invited again. Probably less than a month out, your wife is going to come on as part of a group. And
she told me she already has her off the beaten path topic, but she would not tell me what it is.
Well, that's good. That way you'll have to listen to it. So.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, listen, thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time.
Sounds good.
Thanks for joining us. Feel free to subscribe to us on whichever platform you listen to your podcasts. Also, I want to take a quick minute to thank Darin VanderMolen for all of his help behind the scenes. Without him, this podcast probably wouldn't even exist, and his help is greatly appreciated. Hope you have a great week, and we will look forward to seeing you the next time we go down the botanical trails. This has been a Shits and Giggles production.